One Punch Man and some more merry misunderstandings are back for part 4 of ranking anime protagonists by their chances of impressing Saitama, the hero with the power of parody and gag on his side. Not every character used in this series will be from an anime specifically, but are anime adjacent, so to keep things simple, the title remains. But I'm sure we'll still have a few bozos who don't listen in the comments saying so and so isn't an anime anyway. My view on Saitama can be summed up at the start of the first video in this series, so feel free to check that out after watching this one. Otherwise, I'll just be saying the same stuff at the start of every video. Keep clarifications in mind, try not to crash out, and like the sign over there says, don't drop the soap. Wait, where are you watching this video from? Important, these rankings are based on the concept that the protagonist in question battles Saitama in a random encounter after some kind of misunderstanding and has this one interaction to leave an impression on him. This will also usually be their anime version as of the video's release date unless stated otherwise. Just a quick clarification before we start, these gradings don't necessarily mean one character is strictly stronger than another for placing higher or lower. It can be purely down to the ways Saitama perceives them differently due to their power set's complexity or the person's general vibe. One character's overall nature might leave more of an impression on Saitama within the fight, even if that character is conventionally less powerful than someone they placed higher than. So this is not a flat power scaling tier list. Alright, let's punch through these tiers, which I've related to loose quotes from the series. Okay denotes that their powers or overall interaction doesn't leave much of an impression on Saitama and he's keen to just kinda get through it. You're kinda fast implies that Saitama is impressed to some degree, even if they're nowhere near his level. Serious series is because their powers are kind of weird or because their efforts inspired him. Saitama's chosen to bust out one of his traditional or improvised killer moves, such as serious punch, serious sidesteps, etc. Your strong is a reference to when he told Boros he was strong, so I'm using that as a way to say that even though Saitama's limitlessness was too much for them, he was able to recognize the intense level they brought to the dance. And finally, we have a dream, which is a fun way of saying that Saitama's fought someone so powerful that he's begun to wonder if this is the same as that dream he had with the Subterranean King. A fight so enjoyable that it couldn't possibly be real. A fight that's taken him to new heights he's had yet to experience. The son of the ogre has arrived and is ready to put his martial arts to the ultimate test. It's Baki Hanma from the Baki series. It's a no-brainer that Baki would absolutely outclass Saitama in every way when it comes to fighting skill, since he's a master of various arts and can put a beat down on someone from any angle with a variety of moves. However, Saitama has wanted to experience true martial arts before, and it didn't quite go according to plan. Baki, as skilled as he is, wouldn't have too much luck in applying these techniques successfully upon Saitama when their powers are so epically apart in scope. Amusingly, Baki would probably have heard that some guy had gotten into a scuffle with some known martial artists in the neighborhood, and since the names in question were those of people he respected and knew to be formidable, he'd probably confront Saitama out on the street somewhere with a lax attitude and his hands in his pockets, asking Saitama if he's up for having a friendly contest somewhere nearby. Saitama would look around with a slightly confused look while scratching the side of his face before saying, no, before trying to walk away. It'd be then at that point that Baki would probably watch him walk off with a few blinks of surprise at the fact that this seemingly powerful man didn't want to fight him even in the slightest. However, sometime later, they'd no doubt come across each other once again somewhere quiet, with Baki taking the initiative this time and going on the offensive before Saitama could have any complaints. And to his shock, every single punch, kick, and grapple attempt leaves no effect on the bald man, with Saitama complaining that this roughhousing teenager was creasing the new tracksuit he just bought, asking with a slight frown if Baki had got what he wanted and if he can go now. Baki would reluctantly agree in a mixture of awe and bewilderment, then allow Saitama to walk away, albeit he would now have the most powerful mental imagery to practice against for his training. Yes, stronger than the mental image of the praying mantis, stronger than the mental image of even Yujiro Hanma. The mental image of this mysterious bald man in a tracksuit. Good luck training for Saitama, Baki. You're gonna need it from the OK tier. Moving on, we have someone connected to a participant from the previous video. She can bend water, earth, fire, and air. You guessed it, Korra from Avatar, The Legend of Korra. There's all kinds of raging debates about who is the better avatar between Korra and Aang, ranging from all different reasons and circumstances as to why, but I think as far as this list goes, she can more or less be given the same benefits that her predecessor received when it comes to the tiering. As said in the previous video of this series, Saitama would appreciate that someone with such rare gifts has trained them to the pinnacle that they could achieve, with her flashy repertoire of elemental output being something that Saitama doesn't get to experience every day, and to such a versatile effect. What Korra would lose in endearment from Saitama, which Aang benefited from, being a talented, good-natured kid with a head as shiny as his own, for example, would be made up for her generally more notable power output and physical nature. However, at her level, same for many others on this list, at a certain level of overall power, Saitama won't really notice the differences in speed and strength too much, since they're all so far beneath his own level. Conventional scaling on this particular tier list doesn't always work, because the speed difference between Korra and the anime version of, say, Sung Jin Woo for example, won't really register as much different from Saitama's perspective, so that's when other factors can come into play. With that being said, I think it's only fair that if I put Aang in the You're Kinda Fast tier, then I should do the same for Korra, since they're so comparable for many. I myself prefer Aang by a long shot, but I don't want that to get in the way of where I put Korra in this ranking. She'd give Saitama some amusement and earn a little praise for her elemental mastery and tenacious nature. You're Kinda Fast for the Avatar Korra, who is very talented in her own ways. Regardless of who is better between her and Aang and by how much, neither goes into the serious series tier anyway, so I'm pretty happy with this placement. This was a pretty heavily requested one, and since I recently finished both seasons of the anime, I think it's about time we all gather around with some cream puffs to get it sorted out. It's Mash from Mashle. Due to a lot of similarities shared to Saitama, Mash gets thrown in with our bald superhero pretty often. They're both low on their expression output most of the time, with Mash impressively being even more deadpan than Saitama, who is shown to have his outbursts here and there when certain mundane events trigger him into states of emotional spiking, and both possess insane amounts of physical strength which seem to get them out of any predicament. Though they get compared often for the similar styles of brute force they can display, the fact of the matter is that while super fun and super cool, Mash's strength is simply far below that of Saitama. It seems that Mash's most incredible displays are usually outside of combat or in the aspect of transitional comedy within less serious scenes. But when it comes to actual fights, his overall ability is shown to be a little more modest than what the non-combat performances suggest, meaning there's something of a disconnect between some of Mash's grand defeats when put up against narratively important challenges which tone him down a notch. This isn't a bad thing, because at the end of the day, characters exist to be entertaining, not to just be supremely powerful in every measure for fun comparisons outside of their own verse. And Mash is a great, fun, and lovable character who serves his purpose to exceptional standards within the show of Mashle, but it's far and away from reaching the likes of Saitama himself. Mash seems to be competitive with people below the speed of light, can take damage from attacks tremendously below what Saitama is capable of, and while comically adaptable in combat, he doesn't possess a level of comedic armor which Saitama possesses, essentially meaning he falls short in every metric against our bald superhero. I'm positive that Saitama would be impressed with Mash's dedication to training and his physical displays, though I'd assume in an actual conversation between the two, it'd be filled with awkward silences, even if Saitama did take a liking to the lad, since none of them are huge casual chatters. I'm leaning somewhere between You're Kinda Fast and serious series for Mash, since from Saitama's perspective, it will feel like a pretty routine day of just overwhelming someone who is physically weaker than him, so some nuance would probably get lost on him that some flashier power sets on the list benefit from instead. I think if I take everything I've seen from both seasons into account, I'll say he manages to nudge his way into serious series, but honestly, I'm still shifting between that and You're Kinda Fast because his showings are quite inconsistent, like that of Invincible, but Mash always seems to come out on top despite, whereas Mark gets dunked on a lot. So I'll give more credit to Mash's inconsistency this time around. Alright, last one for the day. Admittedly, I kinda put this one in as a joke, since I remember watching it a lot as a kid, but I still think it's a fun one all the same. Many of us as young boys watched these three save the day countless times, so we need to put some respect on the names of Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup. That's right, it's the 1998 Powerpuff Girls. I spent many a day after school as a child watching these three kick Mojo Jojo's backside all over the city of Townsville, while my parents shouted at each other in the background. So it only felt right to slip them into this list as one of the anime adjacent series, and it'd be a crime to not let them have at Saitama as their iconic trio. However, they don't need any more praise from me. Right off the bat, I'll just throw out that they protected the Earth by nullifying a solar flare, which immediately puts their power among some of the highest we've seen in this video series so far. And not only do they possess enough physical power to defend the Earth from certain disaster, but they also operate beyond the speed of light. These three lasses are truly cracked, and it's no wonder Townsville always managed to end up just fine at the end of every episode. If a monster attacked Townsville, and Saitama showed up late in prime One Punch Man fashion to one punch the monster into oblivion, all would seem well and good. Until the Powerpuff Girls show up to a ruined city block littered with battered cars and cracked buildings. With no one but some random bald guy standing there with his fist out, the three young heroes may think all of this destruction is the cause of this straight-faced Baldy. What would ensue would no doubt be almost like fighting three miniature Boroses at the same time as they strike at him from various angles all throughout the air beyond the speed of light, with planet-rocking punches bobbling his smooth head and hurling him around like a tennis ball. And while Saitama is trying to make heads or tails for why three superpowered little girls are using him like a volleyball, he'd no doubt have to hear all manner of comments about his baldness as they refer to his shiny head, for lack of a better naming reference. What has me being bald got to do with why you're all hitting me? Saitama would probably protest as he gets launched across the sky between a fearsome chain of team attacks from Blossom, Bubbles and Buttercup as they showcase their intense strength and blistering speed. Naturally, Saitama wouldn't lay a finger on any of these children since, well, he's Saitama and he doesn't hit kids, so he'd be an unwilling but accepting punching bag for as long as these girls decide to hammer him until they either wear themselves out or catch on to the fact that since he's not fighting back, maybe he's the guy who actually dealt with the thing that created all of that damage to the city, instead of actually being the thing which created all of that damage to the city. It'd likely take Bubbles eventually saying, hey, I don't think this guy is actually bad, before they likely ease up, with Buttercup maybe taking a little more convincing since she's always so down to scrap. And then the misunderstanding would soon come to an end as Blossom takes charge to find out who this guy really is. What's for certain though is Saitama would acknowledge that these three kiddos are in a league of their own, especially for their age, and while he probably wouldn't be thrilled with having been whacked around so much after he saved the day beforehand, he'd certainly acknowledge how impressive they all are individually and especially as a team. And as he'd pat them all on the head with a genuine smile at the thought of such powerful young heroes growing up to be even greater, he'd be right back to that deadpan expression as one of them would no doubt say, thanks Baldy, and ruin the moment. You're strong for the Powerpuff Girls, who are absurdly powerful individually and even more so as a team. And there it is, part 4 on how Saitama would rank encounters with popular protagonists based on how much they would impress him after random and misunderstood physical confrontations, mostly gauged by a varying mix of their power, vibe, and interaction. I'll keep doing these if people keep watching them. Be sure to subscribe so the channel can grow, leave a like, and you're welcome back anytime to the channel of Saitama World. Go watch those other parts if you haven't already.